Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome to everybody listening in on our TV and radio affiliates from coast to coast, everybody on all streaming platforms. Thanks for joining us as well. Also on Hotel TV and our cable operators. Listen, folks, we all watch these games on television, and in many cases nowadays, it seems like everybody's making a bet on this, making a bet on that, and you almost don't know where to turn to in the grand scheme of things because there's so many betting outlets and whatnot. And as we embark upon the playoffs for the National Hockey League and the NBA, well, the betting lines are out. But first, let's take a quick look at the NBA standings, where everything stands right now. And of course, by the time you hear this, things may change just a little bit. But what we do know is in the East and in the West, we have the number one and the number one. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder, finishing at 68-14, a very lofty 68-14, and finishing just a couple of games behind in the standings, 4 in the loss column and 4 in the win column, I guess. It's actually 64-18, being the Cleveland Cavaliers. And of course, they're set to play the 8th seed. Now, the 8th seeds, well, they're still up for grabs. I mean, think about the 8th seed in the West. You've got the Kings and the Mavs at 9 and 10, and then you've got the winner of the 9 and 10 playing the Memphis Grizzlies to get in there to have the right to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'd kind of rather see the Grizz in there myself, just because I want to see Zach Edey get his shot in there. Now, over in the East, for the opponent, for the Cavaliers, you've got 9 versus 10, the Chicago Bulls at number 9 and the Miami Heat at number 10. The winner, of course, gets the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks then would play either the Bulls or Heat for the right to play the Cavaliers. And in that one, hopefully, of course, we're rooting for our hometown Chicago Bulls. Always got to root for the home team just because we are homers in the grand scheme of things. All right. Now, the rest of the brackets are pretty much set here because in the West, you've got the Nuggets and Clippers. That ought to be a really fun one to watch. A couple of 50-win teams, 50 and 32 apiece. And the Clippers are going to be the road team in that series. The Lakers and the T-Wolves. I'm rooting for the T-Wolves in this one. I want to see Anthony Edwards get a chance to get in there. And these guys are fun to watch. Yeah, the Lakers got a couple of good players, but I think the T-Wolves are a better team across the board. Never mind the records. I mean, really, the T-Wolves finished just one win behind the Lakers. It was 50 and 32 for the Lakers and 49 and 33 for the T-Wolves. I just think the T-Wolves are a better squad. Kind of rather see them get in there. And at the bottom of the brackets, it's the number 2 seed Rockets at 52 and 30 against the Warriors, who are always dangerous. And geez, those guys, man, you never know what you're going to get, except you do know you're going to get a great game from Curry and Butler and the guys. I just don't see the Rockets beating them. Somehow the Warriors will find a way to get themselves to advance, and who knows what's going to happen from there. Now, over in the East, the 4-5 matchup has the Indiana Pacers at 50 and 32 and the Milwaukee Bucks. And the Bucks, despite being 2 games less in the win column, 2 more in the loss column, I think the Bucks are a better squad. I think the Bucks are going to surprise Indiana with a mild upset there. for the 5/4. Now, the 3-6 matchup is going to be a gritty, grindy matchup between the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. And the Pistons, boy, they just have a way of getting under everybody's skin. It sure seems that way nonetheless. But ultimately, it seems as though the Pistons will probably not be able to beat the Knicks. The Knicks will probably get their first real impact playoff win in quite some time. And I think the Knicks are going to move on. And, of course, at the bottom of the brackets is the Boston Celtics at 61-21 against the Orlando Magic. I have to tell you, the Magic, I think 99% of the people that are betting this across the board have the Celtics advancing. And I saw an interesting graphic on this. As a matter of fact, looking at these brackets, it was, I think I had that one right. I was looking at a graph from NBA.com. That's what it was. And so they were showing the different teams and what the odds were and so forth. And this was actually the percentages picked by the fans in sorts. And so the bracket, which I find rather interesting, the bracket has some matchups that, well, you say, all right, well, maybe the Cavaliers will probably win. By 98% of the people are picking, of course, the Cavs. But let's go back to that other one here that we were talking about. And so it was the Orlando Magic. 1% of the fans had picked them over the Boston Celtics. And it's not that it really means anything with this, but this is the fans' perspective. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but here's the interesting part about it. If the Orlando Magic actually do end up beating the Boston Celtics, that would mean the sports books would absolutely clean house because likely everybody, their brother, their mother, or their cousin are betting on the Boston Celtics to advance. And they'll probably take the money line. They'll lay 1,000 to win 100 because it's very unlikely that the Magic would beat the Celtics. So when you look at these brackets, why are we talking about it? Because a lot of people like to bet these games and then the future betting and so forth, which we're going to get to in a second. But it's the fans that dictate the flow of the money because remember, the money knows all. Now, what I mean by that is you've got to be able to follow the money as a prognosticator. I've been picking games for many, many, many years. And when you look at the way the money flows with these games, you say, all right, if the money is loaded up on one particular team, now you know the casinos need to make a lot of money. How do they make a lot of money? By having the other side in there. And that's why when we had that game fixing thing way back with Tim Donaghy, went to prison for, I think, 13 months for game fixing in the NBA, a lot of it was predicated on the money flow. Which way was the money going? And how could this organization or that organization end up making more money if a particular team wins? Now, in the case of the Knicks and Pistons, the Knicks are picked by 80% of the fans, according to NBA.com, with the Detroit only 20%. Now, with the Pacers and Bucks, the Bucks are picked on a 3-2 basis, or 66% of the fans pick the Bucks. They're betting on them to win over the Pacers at 34%. Now, over back in the Eastern Conference, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but that's what I do. Over in the East, the number one Cavs, whether it's the Atlanta Hawks or the Chicago Bulls or Miami Heat, it doesn't really matter. 98% of the fans are picking the Cleveland Cavaliers to move on in that series. Of course, having that great record. Now, over in the West, with that 2-7 matchup, as I had said, I didn't think the Rockets really... It's not that they don't stand a chance. I just think that the Warriors bring too much to the table. And, well, basically all the people that are picking these things and the way the money is going shows that the Warriors are a 3-2 favorite over the Rockets. So 2 out of every 3 people are picking the Warriors to beat the Rockets. And in that T-Wolves-Lakers matchup, in that 3-6 matchup, the Lakers are 88% picked by the fans versus the 12% by the T-Wolves. I think a lot of fans are getting locked into that whole Luka Doncic thing, and I think that's great. Good for Luka. But outside of Luka and James, I just want to know, what do the Lakers really bring to the table? I think the T-Wolves bring a more balanced attack to the table. The bench players are better, in my opinion, on the T-Wolves. And I even give it to the coaching staff. I like J.J. Redick. He's a fellow Duke guy. But I'm going to give it to the T-Wolves in that upset. That's my upset in the first round. And yes, that is a let's put it this way. It's about a 12% chance according to the fans. And so if you're looking for those people they bet stocks, I'm going to say bet stocks because they buy and sell stocks. So that is essentially a 7/8 versus a 1/8. So you have basically a 1/8 chance if you're looking at it from a stock standpoint. Now, in that 4-5 matchup between the Clippers and Nuggets, the Nugs are a 57% favorite according to the fans. And I tend to disagree with that. I think the Clips are going to find themselves in there. And of course, at that 1-8 matchup, whether it is the Memphis Grizzlies, Sacramento Kings, or the Dallas Mavericks, they're at only a 4% chance, according by the fans, because 96% of the fans pick the Thunder to move on. And these odds, better yet, the odds in accordance with those picks will correspond a little bit like this. We're looking at the NBA futures, and this is with the casinos. In fact, you know what we're going to do? We're going to wait till we come back from break and talk about this because we'll spend a little bit more time on what it looks like for each one of these with 3 different casinos as well. That's what we do here on the Circus. We want to give you some of the online point of view. We'll give you the casino's point of view as well. This way you may have a better understanding of which way the money is flowing in the casinos versus what the fans are picking. Back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average and best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, welcome back to everybody. Listening in on our affiliates and independents, including our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for waking up with us. Over in Auburn, Alabama, home of the Atlanta Braves, WAUD 1230 on the AM dial. Thanks for joining us over there, as well as up and down the heartland, all the way out through the West Coast to our friends in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, the San Francisco 49ers, or the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus, welcome into everybody else that is streaming on Apple, Amazon, Audible, and Spotify, and Pandora, and YouTube, and iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Deezer, and everywhere else. Also on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wow Cable, and independent affiliates in select markets, plus Hotel TV in about 500,000 rooms. And everybody also on Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites. Thanks for joining us on that food page. Lots of fun. That's Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right. Having this discussion on odds, we were going to go to Vegas, right here in Vegas, going to take a look at some of these casinos and what they have for the NBA futures. And of course, we saw what the fans wanted and what the fans are betting and what the fans are picking in their brackets and whatnot, because there's those bracket challenges. We were looking at the one from NBA.com, give them a little bit of attention. Now, as far as the odds to win the NBA title, it is fairly defined. You've got a couple of teams that really are dominating the betting, and that's basically about it. And what I find interesting is it's not the two favorites either. It's one favorite and one not favorite, one second-ranked team, if you will, in the East. So the Oklahoma City Thunder, if you're at the MGM Grand or the MGM Resorts International properties, whatnot, they're a plus 190, put up 100 to win 190. Caesars and their chain of properties, we'll just call it Caesars Palace anyway, at plus 180, put up 100 to win 180 bucks. And at Bally's, another Caesars property, they're a plus 150. So you get the best odds if you're going to bet the Thunder to win it all at MGM at a plus 190, according to the current line. Now, second place right behind them, it's not the Cavaliers. No, it is the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are plus 210 at MGM. Put up 100 to win 210 over there. Caesars, it's plus 195, put up 100 to win 195 bucks. And at Bally's, it's down to 175. So, of course, if you are betting and you like the Boston Celtics, the MGM, again, is the place to place that bet. Now, the Cavaliers, who you'd think with that big lofty record over in the East, that they would be the team in the East to be that odds-on favorite to come out of the East. Well, guess what? Certainly not the case, because the Cavs are actually a plus 500 to win it all at Bally's. At Caesars, they're a plus 550, put up 100 to win 550 bucks. That's pretty good money. And they're plus 500, 5 to 1 over at Bally's. And then there's a sharp drop-off to that next tier. So you got those three squads, and then the next tier has the Lakers over at MGM at 10 to 1. Same thing at Caesars, 10 to 1. At Bally's, they're 12 to 1. Not bad. Put up 100 to win $1,000, or even at Bally's, put up 100 to win 1,200. That's not bad at all. Now, the Warriors, who they just have that ability to shock the world, and it's almost worth putting $10 on them because they're a 13 to 1 at the MGM, 14 to 1 at Caesars, and 2,000 to 1. I mean, geez, for $10, if they end up winning the NBA title, that's $200 for $10, folks. That's not bad. And the cool thing about this is you could take this next tier of teams, and you could probably pick 5 or 6 of these, and if one of those come in, you could basically cover 5 or 6 teams, but you can also essentially hedge your bets by picking these because they all pay well over 10 to 1. Now, the New York Knicks are at 33-1 at the MGM. They're 35-1 at Caesars and 30-1 at Bally's. Can they contend? Sure, they can contend. You never know. And the Nuggets are 35-1 at MGM, 25-1 at Caesars, and 30-1 at Bally's. And the Clippers will go all the way down, maybe a few more here, and that's it. The Clippers are at 30-1 at MGM, and they're at 31 also at Caesars, but the Clippers are 40-1 at Bally's. Big odds, big number. Now, the T-Wolves, why? I just happen to I like Anthony Edwards. I would like to see him be the face of the league, but he's not really interested in that. We did a show on that previously. The T-Wolves are at 55-1. That's right. Plus 5,500. Put up 100 to win 5,500. Big number. That's at MGM. Same price at Caesars. And they're 40-1 over at Bally's. The Rockets up to 80-1. 80-1 at MGM. 75-1 at Caesars. And 80-1 at Bally's. The Pacers will get down to the Bucks, and that's it. The Pacers are basically the same thing as the Rockets. And the Bucks are at 150-1 at MGM. And remember, they're not too far removed from NBA titles themselves. 151 at Caesars and 150-1 at Bally's. Those are big numbers and big payoffs. Why would you take that second tier of teams when you think, well, it's probably going to be Oak City and Cleveland or Oak City and Boston, whatever, and basically it's just about a 2-1 payoff. Now, it's more fun to root for the underdog, of course, but you've got some real experience in that next level with the Lakers and the Warriors. And those are two teams that are both above 10-1. You can get really good odds on those. I mean, the Warriors, you can get at 20-1. And if you like the Lakers, you can pick them up at 15-1 at the casino, or you could bet them online and pick them up at 15-1. The Lakers, you can get at 15-1 at one of those online betting venues. And so that's the best place to bet the Lakers, but the best place to bet the Warriors would be at the Bally's, and because you get the 20-1 there. And so adding one of those two teams in the mix wouldn't be a bad thing. I think the Lakers are a team that could surprise some people, but the Warriors, there would be no surprise there. I mean, they always have good players, at least since the revamping of this team in the last 15, 20 years, whatever. But I guess my point in all of this, if you're a betting soul and you want to have some fun with this, you don't have to bet a lot. If you bet, you can bet $2. That's the minimum at the sports book, $2. So for $2, you can hoot and holler about everything, or you could just spend that $2 and go get yourself maybe a happy hour adult beverage and hoot and holler during maybe one of those games, if you will. I don't know. Either way, I guess ultimately the odds are the odds, and is it worth your while to spend the money? Maybe. Because it sure looks like it's probably going to be Oak City and somebody, and probably Oak City will probably end up winning this thing. And the only other team that will really give them any trouble out of the West would be the Warriors or the Lakers, and I don't know if those two teams have enough. Maybe the Warriors do. I would probably give it to the Warriors. Again, for me, it's worth putting $10 on it to get 20-1. I would almost like to see the Warriors shock the world and maybe come out of there. But in the East, it's going to be either Boston or Cleveland, likely. I don't think there's any team in the East that's really going to contend beyond those two. And my best guess is it's probably going to be the Boston Celtics. So, and how come they don't call them the Celtics rather than the Celtics? Think about that, folks. It should be the Celtics. I don't know. But anyway, a lot of people have asked that question. But ultimately, the NBA has really, really taken a step backwards in excitement. So, frankly, I don't think I want to be watching a whole hell of a lot of it. I'll watch the scores and I'll see the highlights and whatnot. I will watch maybe a T-Wolves game or two because I'm interested in watching what they do. I think they're one of the more well-rounded teams in the league. And maybe that's why teams are betting the Oak City Thunder, because they are a pretty well-rounded team. And, of course, they're the league best. But we'll see which way that one shakes out. And, when we look at the basketball, we say, do they have a similar dynamic as the NHL? Yes, in terms of they have the playoffs that's going on. But guess what? When we look at the NHL right now, we see the NHL not only is more exciting, I think it's clearly more exciting, but when you look at the NHL, look, first of all, it's the hardest trophy to win in sports is the Stanley Cup. And the cup weighs 35 pounds for a reason. I mean, it's the most prized trophy for a championship in all of professional sports. But hockey is a very, very different breed. The players are a different breed. It's a very bumpy road, first of all, just to get to the National Hockey League, let alone making the team, staying up with the big team, not getting sent down basically to the farm team, if you will, and making an impact on the ice. Because remember, you've got deadly weapons on your feet. You got a puck that's traveling up to 100 miles an hour being shot. You've got players that are skating 25-odd miles an hour, trying to check you 5 to 10 rows through the glass into the seats. And by the way, they're using a stick. That hockey stick is what? Another deadly weapon. And yes, what do? They drop the gloves and they fight and they fight and they fight. You go after their little guys, they're going to take you out with one of their big guys. And that's no joke. So the one thing I like about hockey is it's very physical. It's very self-policing. You can't get away with a whole lot of stuff. There's the same amount of players essentially in hockey as there is in basketball outside of the goalies. But ultimately the game, the speed, the excitement, hockey is clearly the champion between the two. And that's why hockey has actually crushed the NBA in popularity. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs and the odds. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Deezer, and of course all other streaming platforms, as well as at thesportscircus.com. Just make sure you click on Master Archive under the podcast platform button, and you'll find it. No, we don't do a podcast. We just use all those streaming platforms to store our shows for all you listeners that like to be on those streaming platforms. How do you like that one? So we make sure we give them a round of applause. Also, make sure you check out the partners page at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great partners over there, lots of favorites, and of course, one of those is the music of Jason Owens, country music star Jason Owens. Check him out at jasonowensmusic.com. That's jasonowensmusic.com. And I got to tell you, this is a really, really good singer. Great stage presence, great fiddle player, really good drummer, great bluesy bass player. Playing Vegas all the time, played Vegas well over 150 times at this point. And got to tell you, man, this kid is good. He is really good. Check him out again at jasonowensmusic.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. TV and radio, you are. And, of course, a big thank you to Dave Jackson, ESPN rules analyst for ESPN Hockey, bringing us back from break. And talking a little bit about the hockey playoffs and the odds. You know, we look at the standings and we say, boy, this is a very hard-fought season. These squads, they play 82 games of grueling, and I mean grueling competition. Baseball is a long 162-game setup, and yeah, it's grueling, but not like hockey. I'm a former baseball player. I can tell you, hockey, I believe, is the hardest game to play. There's no question. Looking at the Eastern Conference, so we have the Eastern and Western Conference. The Eastern Conference, you got Washington, that is essentially, well, they're going to come in second place behind Winnipeg over in the West for the President's Trophy. And Washington with 111 points, we'll just call them about 112, 113 points. They're going to finish at the number 1 slot. The Toronto Maple Leafs going to end up in the number 2 slot. Now, number 3, the Tampa Bay Lightning, a very good, very difficult to play squad. At number 3, Carolina, who's always there. Boy, these guys are tough. Carolina actually has a shot to overtake Tampa. Probably not going to. And it looks like Carolina will probably end up matching up with the Florida Panthers, who end up finishing in the 5th slot. And boy, that Florida-Carolina series, that would be one hell of a series just looking at it as it stands. The New Jersey Devils are 4 points behind the Ottawa Senators. Looks like Ottawa's going to end up in the 6th slot. It looks like they're going to match up against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I don't see Ottawa competing with those guys. Sorry. The New Jersey Devils, a very pesky and tough Devils team, likely going to end up in, actually they are ending up in that 7th slot, set to play the Toronto Maple Leafs. But, you know, Toronto's really had their hands full with the playoffs. They just seem to be an early exit over and over and over and over. And in the last spot, fighting for the last spot, looks like it's going to be Montreal potentially over Columbus. They do have one game remaining. Columbus technically could catch Montreal, and they could end up taking that last spot. But it looks like it's Montreal's to win. And all they've got to do is basically get a team into overtime, their next game, their last game, and they're in the last spot to square off against Washington. And the Washington-Montreal matchup, they have a little bit of history there. And don't think that Washington is going to just go breezing through Montreal if they do play them. And the problem is with the Capitals. Look, they give up a lot of goals, just like Montreal. Montreal gives up a lot of goals. Their defense is very questionable. In fact, out of all the playoff teams in the Eastern Conference, it is Montreal that has given up 22 more than they've actually made. So they're 241 for 263 against. Now, if you look at the Caps are 286 for and 227 against. So they're dominating in both sides, but it seems to me that Washington not only is limping into the playoffs, they're 4-6 in their last 10. They did win their last game, but who gives a damn? At home, they're 26-9-6. That's pretty damn good. And the road team, being in this case would be Montreal, they're playing about 500 puck on the road. And so that's not so bad because you look at these playoff teams, a lot of them are right around the same. But Montreal has that thing where they'll get into the playoffs, they'll find a way to turn it on, and they're 6-2-2 in their last 10. So, yeah, they are above 500 because, those two are 2 overtime losses. So they're really 6 wins against 4 losses, 2 in regulation and 2 in the extra frame. So technically they're 6-4 in their last 10. They've lost their last 3, so they're limping in as well. So you say, well, yeah, can they compete with Washington? Yes, they can, because Washington seems to play to the level of their competition, and they don't seem to have that killer instinct. But as we look up and down this playoff bracket in the Eastern Conference, we say, well, geez, who the heck has it? You want to say Toronto has it, but then again, you can't necessarily say Toronto has it. Yeah, they scored. Their differential's 36. They scored 36 more goals than their opponent, or better yet, than they've given up. It's the same thing. But you also say, look, they're very consistent home road. That's basically 1 game different, a game and a half difference between their 26-13-1 at home, 25-13-3 on the road. That's really good. In fact, that is the best road team in the Eastern Conference. Maybe that'll help them. And they're 8-1-1 in their last 10, won their last 4 games. But the bigger question is, how have they done head-to-head with the New Jersey Devils? Because that looks like the matchup. And the Devils are playing 500 puck in their last 10, but the Devils are a better road team than they are a home team. Imagine that. And the Devils have only given up 217 goals, which is second best of the playoff teams in the East. Only 2 goals behind the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're going to get to them in a minute. So if you think that Toronto is just going to mosey on or sashay their way through the New Jersey Devils, think again. Toronto seems to not show up in the playoffs. For some reason, they're always fishing or golfing early, if you know what I mean. But we'll see what Toronto can do against a very good and very pesky New Jersey Devils team. And these guys score, too. These guys are no slouch. So watch out in that series. You may see a Devils upset and send Toronto fishing and golfing early. Now, Tampa and Ottawa in that 6-3 matchup, this one screams Tampa Bay. And honestly, I don't even know how Ottawa is in this series. Should they be in the series? Well, apparently they've earned it. So we'll give it to them. And Ottawa is one of those teams that, well, they play really good at home, but they don't play very good on the road. And they're 5 games under 500 total on the road. And they're playing just above 500 in their last 10. They're 6-4 overall. But looking at the Lightning, boy, this team is absolutely loaded. And look, when I say loaded, I mean, I'm not just saying, well, that's because what they've done in the past, whatever. No, these guys are very, very well coached. John Cooper is a very good coach. And it's not necessarily that these guys are bad at anything. Look, they're first in goals for, they're 4th in goals against, they're 5th in power play, 7th in penalty kill, and they haven't given up that many penalty minutes as well. So look, the Tampa Bay Lightning are really good from top to bottom in the grand scheme of things. You say, well, who do they have? Okay, well, first of all, they've got one of the best goalies on the planet in Vasilevsky. Their defense, their top pair, is Victor Hedman and J.J. Moser. Ryan McDonough behind Victor Hedman and Eric Chernak. Now, the third line, the third group, those grinders and muckers, have Bilderberg and Perbix, 2 real physical grinders and muckers. Now let's look up front. Their top line with Nikita Kucherov, one of the best players on the planet, with Braden Point as the center, and Yanni Gourde comes back to the Tampa Bay Lightning after his time over in Seattle. Second line, Jake Gunsel, a very good one, picked him up from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Cirelli and Hagel, Brandon Hagel, a very, very good player, underrated as well. And that third line has Gonsalves, Nick Paul or Mitchell Chaffee, doesn't matter who they put in, and Connor Geekie, a very pesky player. These guys are absolutely loaded. And frankly, I don't necessarily see how the Ottawa Senators are going to do anything against that group. And there's a couple of injuries here or there, but it's not to their top line guys. And looking at the Ottawa Senators, I say, well, yeah, they are a good squad, but they're 21st in goals for, 11th in goals against, 12th in power play, 18th in penalty kill, compared to all those top superlatives or those top ones for Toronto. And Linus Ullmark's a good goalie for Ottawa, but Shabbat and Hamonic are not necessarily the best top pair for defense. Looking at the top for Zetterlund, Stützle, and Cruikshank are not really the best top line. David Perron, Dylan Cousins, and Batherson as your second line on the offensive side. And Amadio, he's kind of a journeyman at this point, and Pinto and Grieg are your third line guys. Your fourth line guys, now you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. So I don't necessarily believe that these guys are going to even compete. And if you're looking to bet on a sweep in the playoffs as far as the first round, I would say the Tampa Bay Lightning have a real shot to sweep the Ottawa Senators. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and cover the rest of these bracket matchups for the first round in the National Hockey League. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by the Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests. Our prior guest, folks, we just added somebody very special to the roster. We've got a couple of we've got a couple of superstars that are coming out of the show. One of them, of course, is the great Wayne Newton. That's right, Wayne Newton is going to be on the show here. And also, we just added Lafitte Pincay Jr., who is essentially, I would argue, he's probably the best jockey that's ever lived, next to him or Shoemaker. I think it's Pincay, probably the best jockey in horse racing of all time. He's going to be right here on the Sports Circus, and you'll be able to read about it. There will be a press release on it. Very exciting. And we're very, very fortunate to have such a wonderful, wonderful jockey. All right. Also, make sure you check out the tab across the top. There's one called Store. And a shameless plug for the Sports Circus. Check out some of our wonderful gear, all embroidered, made right here in these United States of America. Hats, hoodies, T-shirts, and sweatpants, and coats, and pillows, and even coffee mugs, travel mugs, mouse pads, you name it, all kinds of wonderful things with the Sports Circus logo on them. And, of course, a shameless plug for us. And, of course, we've been around for thousands of shows at this point. It's crazy to say, thousands of shows. And we plan on sticking around for several thousand more. Thanks for joining us here every day on the Sports Circus. And keep an eye out at our upcoming guest schedule as well. All right. Now, going back to the National Hockey League, and I had talked a little bit about that upcoming Carolina and Florida series. Boy, that's going to be it's a shame it has to happen in the first round. That's one of those ones you probably should see at the conference final. Here you've got the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, and they're 15th in goals for, 8th in goals against, 12th in power play, 10th in penalty kill, and all that. They don't really take penalties either. These guys are really, really well coached. And look, they had a couple of additions and subtractions, but remember, they also have, the best goalie on the planet in Bob, you can call him Bobrovsky. Mikkola and Seth Jones came over from the Blackhawks to play over there, along with Nate Schmidt. Kind of like Nate Schmidt. I have a Schmitzicle in my car still when he was with the Vegas Golden Knights with Kulikov. These guys are really good defensively. With Gustav Forsling, I have to tell you, these guys are really tough. And up front, bringing in Brad Marchand from the Boston Bruins. What a big, big acquisition that was, to have him and Sam Bennett and Verhaeghe up front as your top line. You have Boquist and Rodriguez and Shemeskov on top of it as your second line. And man, you've got so many good players on this team. It's ridiculous. I don't even know. I mean, with Alexander Barkov down the list as the center, who is a top line everywhere else. Matthew Tkachuk, same thing. And Sam Reinhart down the trough on the right wing. These guys are so loaded. They're so deep. And honestly, looking at them, you say, well, how in the world do they lose to any team in the first place? And you can say, well, look, any team could beat any team. You're right. Any team can beat any team. And we'll look at that real quick in the Western Conference here as soon as we get done over here. But as we look at what the Carolina Hurricanes bring to the table, I have to say that, I mean, look, these guys are really good as well. It seems like every year Carolina is in contention for something great. These guys, remember, they have won a couple of Stanley Cups. I mean, they're no stranger to hoisting that cup. And so with Carolina finishing a solid 47-28-5, these guys are good, and they too have a very strong roster with Slavin and Burns on the defense, and Dmitry Orlov and Chatfield and Walker and Morrow and Gostabir came over from the Philadelphia Flyers, Riley Stillman. These guys have a lot of good defensemen, and up front you've got Jackson Blake and Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis. Taylor Hall came over from the Chicago Blackhawks. Kotkaniemi over from the Montreal Canadiens, and Sven Chiknikov. And also you've got Jordan Stahl still sticking around, with Jankowski still sticking around, Tyson Jost, he's there, Brindamore's around. These guys are absolutely loaded. So it'll be no cakewalk for Florida. Florida will probably win a very tough series, probably a 6 or 7 game series with these Carolina Hurricanes, but they are no joke, folks. And so also just looking at the rest of the grand scheme of things here, we say, well, in the playoff picture, what does it really look like? Look, it's likely going to be, I'm going to say Florida's going to come out of the Eastern Conference. And they're going to probably end up playing Tampa in the conference final. It's going to be in all Florida. Now, looking at the West, Winnipeg wins the West, and they won the President's Trophy with 114 points. I mean, good for them. Vegas in second place, and actually it looks like Vegas is going to end up with second place over Dallas. And so the Winnipeg matchup is going to be St. Louis, a very physical, grueling, and bruising St. Louis team, and Winnipeg, who is a little bit more offensive-minded. Boy, they have a chance to beat Winnipeg because, man, they are physically tough. Vegas, if everything stays as it stands and they don't flip-flop with Dallas, Vegas would end up playing Minnesota. That should be an easy one for Vegas. Dallas and Edmonton would be the 6-3 matchup, and that one would favor Dallas, the physical Dallas team, over a very, we'll say a very skilled Edmonton team, but they don't have all the tools. And the Kings and the Avalanche would be your 4-5 matchup, a very good matchup that would favor, I think it would favor Colorado if they end up getting Landeskog back, which it looks like Gabriel's going to be able to play. And the Kings just don't have enough as far as the offensive side of the puck goes. If the Kings play Dallas, anything could happen there. But I think it's going to be Colorado advancing. Probably, I think Dallas will advance, Vegas will advance, Winnipeg will advance. Winnipeg will play the lowest seed in this particular case, which they'd probably end up playing Colorado. So it would be speed against speed. Winnipeg has a real shot to beat Colorado, but Colorado is probably a little bit better on the defensive side and also in net. So we're going to give Colorado the nod there to knock off Winnipeg. Vegas would end up playing probably Dallas in that matchup, and this is where Vegas's run ends because Dallas is just too big and heavy. Vegas is big and heavy too, but Dallas plays a different kind of defense. They actually play defense. Despite the fact that the goals against, really, it's Vegas has given up one less goal. Dallas just has that real big physical whatever. The thing that worries me for Dallas is they're going in, they've lost 6 in a row going into the playoffs. Vegas has basically played just above 500 puck. So what are we going to see out of the Western Conference? I think it's going to be Dallas. I have to see Dallas in the Western Conference coming out against possibly the Florida Panthers, and that would probably be your Stanley Cup final. And speaking of the odds, let's take a quick look at the odds because we can. Just like we did in the NBA, we're going to take a look at the odds for the Stanley Cup finals. And to win it all, the odds-on favorite right now is the Dallas Stars, not the Winnipeg Jets, who is number one. They have the President's Trophy. It's not the Florida Panthers. It's not the Washington Capitals with Alex Ovechkin. No, it's the Dallas Stars at a plus 650. They're 6.5 to 1 at MGM. They're 7 to 1 at Caesars Palace, 7 to 1 at Bally's. The Florida Panthers, who I had mentioned, who are probably going to play the Dallas Stars, and I think Florida's going to repeat. Florida is 7 to 1 at MGM, a very good price. They're plus 625 at Caesars Palace, so 100 to 1, 625, and 6 to 1 over at Bally's. Now the Avalanche are at 7.5 to 1 at MGM, 8.5 to 1 at Caesars, and 7 to 1 over at Bally's. Then you have a little bit of a drop off. A very good Carolina team is 9 to 1 at MGM, 12 to 1 at Caesars Palace. That's the bet of the year right there. Bally's 11 to 1. The Tampa Bay Lightning, who is capable of winning that cup yet again, they're at a lofty 11 to 1 at MGM, 10 to 1 at Caesars, and 11 to 1 also at Bally's. Now, for the Oil to get back there, they're going to have a very tough road through Dallas, but they can do it. For Edmonton to get back there, look, they're at a plus 850 or 8.5 to 1 to get back there and win it this time. They came very close in the last Stanley Cup Finals, but they just couldn't get it together against a very tough and physical Florida Panthers team, and that's why I don't think that Edmonton's going to be able to get past Dallas. And so Edmonton also is 9.5 to 1 at Caesars and 10 to 1 at Bally's. Now all the way down to the Vegas Golden Knights, 10 to 1 to win the cup at Bally's, or no, 9 to 1 at Bally's. They're 9 to 1 at Caesars and 10 to 1 at MGM. And then we're going to finish with the last couple here with the Washington Capitals are 9.5 to 1 at MGM. They're 11-1 with Alex Ovechkin to win the Cup at Caesars Palace, and they're 12-1 at Bally's. Could this be the second Cup for Alex Ovechkin after breaking Wayne Gretzky's scoring most goals in his career? So the goal scoring leader is Alex Ovechkin. I like him because he drops the gloves. He'll punch you in the face. He'll play the defensive end, stuff that Gretzky wouldn't do. He'll check you into the fifth row through the glass on top of it. Oh, and by the way, the guy is the number one scorer in the National Hockey League historically now. Now look at the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets. They're all the way down to 11-1 to win the Cup. And that's at MGM and Caesars at 9-1 at Bally's. So you certainly wouldn't want to bet there. And the perennial early exit Maple Leafs are 12-1, 11-1, and 11-1 at the casinos right now. Bally's got them at 11-1, Caesars 11-1, MGM at 12-1. The Kings are at plus 2,000. And it's probably because they don't really score too many goals. 2,000 or 2-1, or better yet, 20-1 at MGM, 22-1 at Caesars, and 17-1 at Bally's. The Devils, who could certainly pull a first-round upset, but I think that's where it ends, 40-1 to win the Cup at MGM, 40-1 at Caesars, 50-1 at Bally's, and then we'll just finish up with the Minnesota Wild at 40-1. They really don't bring a lot to the table, to be honest with you, folks, but we're going to tell you anyway because we have a lot of people that listen to the show up in Minnesota. So 40-1 at MGM, 45-1 at Caesars Palace, and 40-1 at Bally's. Everybody else, the Sens, the Blues are basically the same as the Devils, and the Blues have more tools, but they just don't have enough. The Canadiens, well, anyway, we've seen better days as far as the betting goes. I'd rather spend my money to go get a pizza than bet on those guys, quite honestly. It makes no sense. Anyway, so the NHL is always fun to watch. The Stanley Cup is lots and lots of fun because this is really the second season, and it will last 2 months. That second season, the playoff seasons, last 2 months, and that's an extra big load, grueling hits and whatnot, and lost teeth and all kinds of craziness and chaos on the ice. But I'll tell you what, folks, if you've never seen playoff hockey, watch playoff hockey. If you have a chance to go to a playoff hockey game, I would highly encourage you to go to it. If you have a chance and you have the money to get the glass seats, be right up at the glass. You'll never see a game so fast, so physical. And I have to tell you, I'm an enormous fan of hockey, and this is really the great time. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.